we'll have a lot of operator turned investors very soon. There are quite a few of them already.
Yes, yes.
But for life sciences, not yet.
What are the challenges that founders are facing with the life sciences innovations?
Someone who's done GTM, someone who's probably built products, again, cross-function. There's a lot of interesting grants anyways available in India. You just need to know them and tap them. With that kind of a risk, the reward also has to be potentially high.
Rajiv, also throw some light on what are the key challenges that founders are facing.
One, I think most of the founders are in a rush to build something. If you want a quick win, go invest in a listed market. One, you should just not come to the private markets. Do not really build for government schemes.
How do you assess teams?
My first filter in how I evaluate, say, very early stage ventures is a founder market fit.
सब कर रहे हैं, मुझे करना है.
I think that's a mental challenge. People in India have this social insecurity. Oh, if I write a doctor, at least people will listen to me.
What spaces a non-medical life science graduate can pursue?
Financing certain medical treatment.
How to groom health science or life science graduates?
I think if we look at it from an India standpoint,
Now, public-private partnerships or VC-led disruption?
VC-led disruption. So why can't a medical school also have it? And they have all the facilities, right? I love founders, right? And as we speak, I'm setting up something with two very seasoned folks. There'll always be ups and downs. There'll always be wins and losses, right? And it's not going to be nothing straight line. Today, life sciences is probably, at least in India, is very homogeneous. It's a business model innovation. It's a price point pricing innovation. Engineering, design, liberal arts, business, and that's when you really solve problems. From performance medicine or sports medicine can be ported into everyday medicine.
So this is a message for all our medicos. So moving to the next section, and in this section, which is an investment perspective, we would like to know, and we'll deep dive into how the decision is made in terms of investments. Second, what are the challenges that founders are facing with the life sciences innovations, and what should be their approach, and whom should they approach? Is there any set of investors or set of some people who are actually domain specific or focusing only on one area, or it is always like sector agnostic type of setups? So with that, the first question I would ask you is, what distinguishes a venture backable life sciences startup from one better suited for other funding paths?
Yeah, I think first principles, venture backable means it is highly risky, right? When it is highly risky,
Risky for whom?
anybody who risky for investors, risky for the founder, risky for the early set of employees, right? Everyone's taking a kind of some risk there, right?
risk.
So it's risky.
Yeah.
And that's what venture capital was designed to do, back risky ventures. But then with that kind of a risk, the reward also has to be potentially high, correct? And that's where the risk reward ratio is very different.
But health tech or healthcare industry or startups, they are not quick win.
They're long gestation
It's
period,
long journey.
right? Because there are a lot of certifications, there are regulatory affairs, regulatory filings, refilings,
Exactly.
queries, first set of queries, right? A lot of clinical trials,
Exactly.
needed. If it's a data heavy health life sciences venture, then there is HIPAA, which will become, which is already there outside India, will become mainstream very soon. So those complexities are very, very
So expecting a quick win from healthcare can be a thought process problem.
If you want a quick win, go invest in a listed market. One, you should just not come to the private markets, right? That's my straight answer. But even if it's life sciences, it is patient capital. An early stage, a venture backable business would need multiple rounds of private capital, from folks who, one, understand the founder, two, understand what the industry is requiring, and three, who are able to add some operating value, to the business, to the venture, to the founder, so that it becomes a reality.
Wow.
Right?
Sure.
So that operating value can come in the form of an experienced physician,
Yeah.
could come in the form of an experienced data scientist who's done work in a similar situation prior, someone who's done GTM, someone who's probably built products, again, cross-functional.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where I come back to whether that's very, very, very critical.
Wow.
So you have to, yes, it's difficult to find that, at least in India,
Yeah.
but it will get better
Hmm.
because I think the Indian early stage backing ecosystem will have a lot of operator turned investors very soon. There are quite a few of them already,
Yes, yes.
but for life sciences, not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet, because we've not seen one full meaningful cycle. Maybe for logistics, e-commerce, yes,
Yes.
many.
Yes.
Fashion, beauty products, many,
Yeah.
but not in this
Not yet
space.
health.
It'll come soon.
Yeah.
Right. So what do we do until then? Right. So at least then take money from people who are at least patient capital. I'm not going to hound you
Or
where my money is.
fast recovery. Or
Correct. So you don't want like a
Return.
Adani Zaj in a venture capital format. That's suicidal. And I think there's a lot of interesting grants anyways available in India.
Yeah.
You just need to know them and tap them.
Yeah.
That will give you the initial scale.
Yeah.
Apply to a lot of accelerators and incubators.
Yes.
And not just in India, but anywhere in the world, right? Singapore,
Yeah.
Switzerland, US, wherever, right?
Yeah.
So for life sciences, it doesn't matter whether if you're incorporated in India, right? You can probably get grants
From
or
various
incubation
parts of the
support
world.
from wherever.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
It's a very global industry.
Yeah.
It can be made in India for the world,
Exactly.
right? You have to bake that in really well. And I'm sure you've done similar work as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So that's where you have to take money from. Yes, there are a lot of angel networks now there. A lot of physicians have started investing. A lot of people from the pharma space have started writing angel checks.
Yeah.
Right. So just find the right mix of all of these. And why you may still have a generic sector agnostic fund or a sector agnostic angel network on your captive, which is great.
Yeah.
That will probably give you a lot of commercial teeth,
Correct.
right, in terms of refining your commercial piece of the business.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think you need to have a good mix of all of these.
Great insights. Rajiv, also throw some light on what are the key challenges that founders are facing, especially those who are building healthcare businesses or startups coming from a non-medical background, and what could be your message to them?
From non-medical background, interesting. Challenges. Okay. One, I think most of the founders are in a rush to build something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Why that rush? Because कहीं से कुछ तो पैसा मिल जाएगा.
हाँ. और
पहले prototype बना.
booming industry है. सब जब बात करें मुझे भी
Narrative value.
सब कर रहे हैं मुझे करना है.
I think that's a mental challenge. I think even if you're coming from a medical background, and if you're coming from a non-medical background, you should step back and really spend time in the problem statement. What is the issues? What are the problems there? What are the pain points there? The diagnosis, like a good surgeon, is not going to rush you, right? The surgeon will take time to diagnose. So have that surgical approach. Yeah. Right. And then assemble at least a strong founding team. Initially may not be co-founders difficult. If you're lucky, you can get a co-founder. I think a lot of the other maybe professionals can probably lend you time.
Yeah, maybe as a consultant.
Small consultant.
Board advisor.
Board advisor, and have regular conversations there to refine and validate the problem statement and arrive at the first schema of the solution. What will this look like?
Yeah.
Right. And I'll tell you.
And how early they should involve them?
Day zero.
So, dear viewers, especially dear founders who are building startups in healthcare, don't rush and follow the advice. Involve domain experts right from the beginning of your journey. They will give you inputs because they know how exactly and how it works, because it is their industry and they have worked in that particular sector. So don't miss the bus and don't regret later on. It's important to involve domain expert right from the beginning. Either you can find an expert as a co-founder or as a core team member or an advisor or a consultant, but always take their feedbacks and inputs so as to improvise your product, solution, or whatever business you're making.
Yeah, exactly. I think,
So
and even when you involve someone from the medical background, right, it
Mm.
has to be from a relevant
relevant therapy.
therapeutic area. Like, I was evaluating someone.
In that, I came across a startup. They were building in, they were building in Oxgyney. So on their board, I just asked, is there any medic or gynecologist,
Option, only specialist.
a part of your core team, or maybe as a board advisor or consultant? They said, yeah, we have 2 doctors. I said, oh wow, please share the profile. One was a neurologist, and the second one was a cardiologist,
Doesn't connect.
and both were their relatives.
So don't have that narrative goal. Don't have that narrative,
Yeah,
face value. You have to really get people who match.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's very important to bring people from the right domain.
Ex-
Yeah, if you really want to build something amazing in your business.
Exactly.
So people are very smart. Just that prefix dr will not serve the purpose.
Yeah, I think that's another thing I actually always call out.
Hmm.
Hygiene is don't prefix a dr if you're not a medical doctor. If you have a PhD, please don't prefix dr. If you want to flaunt your PhD, do a comma PhD, or just don't write about it, right? Because it's misleading. Think of it: you're on a flight and you've written dr, but someone calls you. Oh no, actually I'm a PhD in whatever. I'm not a doctor, right? So I think don't give out those false things.
But it's very important to use it properly. And I think in Western countries, people generally don't.
Exactly, like my brother has a
I think many
PhD
PhDs.
and he doesn't really write doctor, right?
Yeah.
Because that's maturity, right? And I think a lot of people in India have this social insecurity. Oh, if I write a doctor, at least people will listen to me.
Yeah.
That's not the case,
Nah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's important to use it responsibly, because it's not only a prefix, it holds a lot
It's a
of
responsibility. Also, Dr. Sinali, I'd like to also highlight another founder challenge.
Okay.
Uh, do not really build for government schemes, specifically in the healthcare domain.
Yeah.
I mean, think of it this way. What if the schemes are withdrawn? Okay. If the schemes are withdrawn, does your business model, does your problem statement still be relevant? Well, no, right?
Yeah.
And I'm saying this out of, having spoken to quite a few healthcare founders who build this. I know this scheme is going to work, and यहाँ से मिल जाएगा. I know this
मिलता है.
tenders and all of this, how to, do this jugaad.
It.
Yeah, I don't think that really cuts it. That's a merchant attitude. Doesn't cut it in life sciences. Life sciences, you need to have a very scientific approach with a commercially sound mindset,
Yeah.
which is very different from flipping it. No, it's not a merchant attitude. It's not going to cut it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair point. On the similar grounds, I would like to add one question to you. How do you assess teams that come from academic or scientific backgrounds but lack commercial expertise? Because we need both the expertise, but there will be some cases wherein we have the great scientific expertise but lacks.
Correct. I think that's where my first filter
Hmm.
in how I evaluate, say, very early stage ventures is the founder market fit. What is the founding team composed of? Is it purely commercial?
Yeah.
Is it purely scientific?
Hmm.
Is it a blend of the two?
Yeah.
Right? And if it's purely scientific, especially in life sciences,
Hmm.
they should apply to an incubator
Hmm.
and find a commercial business officer, a commercial founder, a co-founder, or at least an advisor to start with.
Yeah.
Right? That always helps.
Yes.
And perhaps the only scientific team
Hmm.
may have hit upon a fundamental research which could be commercialized. Then the whole TRL 2 or TRL 3 to TRL 9 journey starts.
Hmm.
Right? But for that, you also need the business sense.
For our audience,
to
what
keep-
is TRL?
This is technology readiness levels,
Hmm.
right? So the lower the TRL, which is TRL 1, 2, 3, the lesser it is ready for commercialization,
Ah.
right? The higher the TRLs,
Hmm.
which is TRL 8, 9, the more ready it is for commercialization. So your path to monetization is a function of where in the TRL you are,
Oh.
right?
So moving to the next question, Rajiv, what spaces a non-medical life science graduate can pursue in life sciences?
Interesting. Okay, so let's look at this from a very different lens.
Hmm.
Okay, Today, life sciences is probably, at least in India, is very homogeneous.
Yeah.
Right? It's only doctors, 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 or nobody.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really a trait of a breakthrough industry.
Yeah.
Right? Any industry which has gone through a breakthrough, has invited and has seen participation from extremely cross-functional set of talent.
Yes.
Cross-functional and cross-industry.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we are yet to see that breakthrough in India at least.
Yeah.
So which means, one, a lot of insurance and uh, the lending side, right? They can attack, say, can we design, create innovative, interesting health insurance products, right?
Yeah.
Why? And they work with, they understand the health insurance side of it. They work with a medical grad or a medical talent to co-design certain interesting pieces, right? For example, how will you underwrite the premium of a specific disease?
Yeah. Yeah.
Pre-surgery, post-surgery, pre-treatment, post-treatment, during treatment, right? And these are topical insurance thematic plays, right? So that is something very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
That can happen,
Yeah.
right? If you're really wanting to do very, very
Yeah.
cutting edge work on insurance for certain medical conditions.
Yeah.
Now, the other way, the other scope is, can someone figure out a way to probably start a meaningful uh, go-to-market accelerator for some medical devices, which are very complex,
Yeah.
right? Or enterprise tech accelerator only for life sciences, which needs to be innovated, right? And with that will also come in a certain play of someone who is innovatively able to price with a innovative pricing and a very innovative price point, for cutting edge lines of treatment, which are not affordable, but because of a very differentiated GTM, differentiated pricing and price point, those are now being accessible and being affordable. Yeah, I think these are the like 3 or 4 things that come to my mind.
Moving to the next question, how to groom health science or life science graduates as entrepreneurs?
I think if we look at it from an India standpoint, uh, we need medical schools to have meaningful incubators and accelerators
Yes.
like the engineering schools have.
We have so many examples in engineering colleges,
Exactly.
be it IIT Bombay or IIT Madras,
Right.
or they are
BITS Pilani and so many of those, right? So why can't a medical school also have it? And they have all the facilities, right? For you to test, prototype, find a problem statement.
Exactly.
And I think the medical schools should be a little less snobbish, less snooty, so that they're able to really meaningfully collaborate with the other disciplines, engineering, design, liberal arts, business. And that's when you really solve problems. Right? And this is, a new field in India that can come and become mainstream, which is you could have kind of a master's in medical technologies or master's in how do you become a medical technocrat, right? Or a medical technologist, right? Where you're combining principles of design, liberal arts, business, engineering, and medicine, right? Working at the incubator, right? So I think that is something that has to really, really happen. And I think these ecosystems and these systems exist. In the US, I'm like I've interacted with folks who graduate out of these kind of programs, and their way of thinking is very, 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 very different. Right. So I think that at a grassroots policy level, right? I think a lot of
It's very important to germinate that culture of innovation or that mindset, entrepreneurial mindset, right, for the foundation of your education. And this severely lacking in medical sciences. Being a medical doctor, I know this, and I have seen very few examples who are healthpreneurs, but in real sense. When I go at various platforms and talk about healthcare entrepreneurship, people actually get surprised to see me. They say you're the first medical doctor that I'm interacting with. There was a guy who was in startup industry for more than 10 plus years, and he said, "You're the first medical doctor that I'm meeting today, who is actually attending all these startup events."
Correct.
एंड पूरी कायनात हेल्थ केयर के लिए काम कर रही है,
Yeah.
ओनली डॉक्टर्स ही है जो इसमें दिखते नहीं हैं हमें. वी ऑल ऑफ अस आर वेरी इंटरेस्टेड एंड वांट टू डू समथिंग अमेजिंग इन हेल्थ केयर,
Correct.
but
We need more.
very few medics there actually.
We know. I know a handful of them since whatever 10, 12, 13 years, right? So we've done
But
that.
very few, very few.
Very few.
I think we need to build that mindset, and it will take time. But I think we can simply adopt the existing models,
Right.
and can duplicate in medical universities.
Yes. Exactly.
We need not to do it from the scratch. I think it's
Yeah.
very
So-
simple
so-
and similar. Yeah.
Second, in my view, a lot of the physicians or surgeons, specifically these two subsets, right, along with the others, should visit, do a trek to a kind of a venture capital firm, right? Should be immersing themselves in a business elective on technology commercialization or new venture creation
No.
or product development. That's when they'll realize, oh, the products that we use on an everyday basis, some innovator, inventor thought about this,
Yeah.
right? So I think that immersion should be a part of the curriculum.
Yeah.
Very important.
Very important.
A lot of exchange programs
Hmm.
that can happen.
Yeah.
You should have. I mean, I would do this if you could have a medical investment fund run at a school, right? In your graduating year, okay, which medical startup would you invention would you start with?
Start with.
Right? And something also which can be done easily, like top engineering schools have this, which is the technology transfer office, right? Wherein all the professors or students or alumni who've probably done some research on TRLs, and patents are filed or some IP is created,
Yeah.
it's available on the technology transfer office for commercialization. Can we have a medical technology transfer office?
Yeah. It's a great idea.
Right?
Yeah.
And see what happens there. So these are little things versus fighting for seats.
So that battle is we can have
That's a different
Oh my
podcast.
God, don't talk about that.
Right? So
Yeah.
little of my thoughts.
But great thoughts, and a lot of I'm sure our audience must have by this time have started, especially the doctors. So this is a message for all our medicos. Um, this is the right time for you to think about innovation, whether you are in medical school pursuing your MBBS or MD, or be it any life science graduate or professionals. It's important for you because the problems are just in front of you, and you know your field better. So try to innovate, try to sit in a group and think about some innovative ideas. And I think once you start doing that, there are many platforms which are, for example, hackathon or ideathons, which are organized by many academic institutions, especially the engineering background institutions. They are inviting medtechs, health techs, and life science devices or apps or healthcare innovations. You can definitely participate there. And the another thing that we have just discussed is about having that entrepreneurship cell or e-cell within the medical institute or medical university that can really be a great game changer. So with this podcast, so we would like to highlight the need of this e-cell in the medical university, so as to bring more and more healthpreneurs or entrepreneurs belonging to a medical field. So with that, Rajiv, it was a wonderful conversation till now. But the next segment is very interesting, and this is my personal favorite segment. And I'm sure, looking at your energy, your speed, and your fire, I think you would love it. It is called Rapid Fire. So, do you want to give explanations, or you'll simply just say A or B?
I'll just shoot.
All right,
Yeah.
like a fire. Rapidly. So biotech or medtech?
Tough. I'd do medtech.
Okay. Regulatory innovation or scientific innovation?
Scientific innovation.
Great. Preventive care or personalized medicine?
Preventive care.
Okay. Founders from academia or industry?
Both.
Okay. That option was mine.
Okay.
ठीक है. AI diagnostics or digital therapeutics?
Hmm. Interesting. This is a tough one.
Mm,
I would go with digital therapeutics.
okay. Single unicorn bet or diversified portfolio?
Diversified portfolio.
Exit via IPO or strategic acquisitions?
Strategic acquisition.
Anything. Impact driven or ROI driven?
Both.
Okay. Again, both option is not there.
Okay, suck.
Huh.
Okay. Okay, then I'll go with impact.
Impact driven.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, deep science with long runway or a quick win SaaS layer?
Deep science with long run.
Quick win with SaaS layer. Yeah.
Maybe, but
Deep
that too, but more on the deep sciences because it's life sciences, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, public-private partnerships or VC-led disruption?
VC-led disruption.
Why?
It is like you get a diversity of people who will back, of course, with the right kind of VC, which is patient capital, right? Deep tech, which are there. Quite a few are there doing some really good work. What happens with the PPP is it gets stuck in the quagmire of policy, bureaucracy, very kind of set mandate, right? But to be innovative, we need that agility and that freedom.
Creativity.
Yeah, and use
Disruptive.
cases might evolve very, very rapidly, right? And that's why I would go with DVC. Yeah.
Great. Data privacy or interoperability, what's tougher to crack?
Tougher to crack. Interoperability.
This is the last one. Platform play or product first strategy?
Platform play.
Platform.
Yeah.
So here we end our rapid fire. Thank you for being so fast and just like fire.
How many milliseconds per response?
Our team will tell after the recording. We'll get to know. Now, moving to the last section, and this is a kind of section where we want you to inspire our audience. So, Rajiv, it was really a lovely journey, type of exposure that you had and experience that you had working with so many people from various domains and not only in healthcare but also across various sectors that actually defines you and that actually talks about your expertise, the wealth of knowledge that you have, and you are a great inspiration to many. But today, my question to you is, what inspires you in life? What is the source of inspiration?
Wow, that's a tough question. Resilience in my parents, I think that's something you're like cut out for all weather, like insulated, right? So that's very, very important. And I think that's also a trait which I live by.
That's
right. So that's very important. Yeah.
Okay, great. Anything would you like to add to this?
Okay, I'd like to add what
Talk more about it.
what
If
inspires me.
comfortable.
Yeah. So there'll always be ups and downs. There'll always be wins and losses, right? Now it's not going to be nothing straight line. But how you respond to those events, circumstances, wins, losses, ups and downs, really define your character, right? So and especially relevant in the entrepreneurship context or venture context because that resilience gives you stamina because it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And marathon requires a lot of resilience. Right? Of course, energy is needed. But how you expend that energy is actually resilience. Right? You need to have you need to know when exactly to move fast, when to pause, when you take a few steps back, when you just let go, and when you get obsessed with outcomes. Right? That's very important to really make the best out of the conditions. So that resilience in that context is something that I really am inspired, and I really live by that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Great thoughts. Any book that inspired you? Are you a book
Many.
reader?
I read a lot of books.
Oh,
My
I thought so.
my home has about some 3,000 odd books,
Oh, that's
right?
huge.
And each month I keep adding like five, six to
Wow.
read something like that. One book which a very close friend of mine gifted me
Mm.
about 2 years ago
Mm.
was this book called Essentialism,
Okay.
and I've read it like thrice now, and it's just amazing. It's like it's a reflection of what is really essential for you to like be happy,
Mm.
right? There's a lot of cholesterol that we carry with ourselves. Social cholesterol, corporate cholesterol is the largest, which is work cholesterol. But once you're in the startup world, there's no cholesterol. It's lean protein that works. But there is a lot of social cholesterol, which means we live by, oh, ye log kya kahenge, main aisa karunga to kya hoga? What if I say like this? Will that person be offended? Well, that's not needed. Right? If the receiver is mature, it's just there, right? So that's important. So I think that's a very interesting book. I would recommend everyone to read.
Oh,
Essentialism and how to think like an essentialist.
wow. I will
Now,
try.
the second book, which I've read it like 4 times. Yeah, I think 3.5 times actually.
Mm.
I'll be honest. Yeah, 3.5 times. Is It's called The Venture Mindset. It's just not for being in venture capital or being an entrepreneur. These are just frameworks, cognitive frameworks
Mm-hmm.
to everyday life.
Okay.
Right. I think these two are like my go-to. And one book which I've read twice, I'm going to read it again.
Mm.
This is The Toyota Way. Uh, some amazing Japanese principles,
Okay.
resilience being one of them.
Mm.
And I'm a judoka for a long period of my time.
Yeah.
So just train, like that's become muscle memory.
Mm.
But one of those experts is continuous improvement, continuous learning. So you're never an expert, right? And I've known this, and which is also a very Japanese philosophy. The moment I hear someone calling an expert, I think for me it's like, okay, orange flag, already raised in my head, because truly no one is an expert.
Yeah.
Everyone's learning,
Evolving. Yeah.
right? So continuous learning, continuous improvement is very, very important, right? And I like to just close this question with a misconception that people have about martial arts, and I'm a martial artist,
Yeah.
right? So uh, always have this white belt mentality. Always, even if you're an expert, you're an industry veteran of whatever 30, 40, 50 years, doesn't matter. Uh, um, you know, Solving a problem afresh requires a white belt mentality. So you have to let go of all the cholesterol
Mm.
and look at it from an absolute fresh lens.
Mm.
Because that problem exists because you didn't solve it.
Yeah.
Being in the industry for 20 years, why is the problem still there?
Yeah.
Right? Which means you have to let go, change your perspective and look at it from a different angle. So that white belt mentality is very critical,
Mm.
which ensures you are learning continuously,
Continuously. Yeah.
right? And once you're a black belt, that's not the end of it. It's just the beginning of your learning, which means you've become a master learner.
Oh.
That's what it means actually.
Oh, great.
Uh,
Okay.
right? And there's always this concept of sensei. So you have a sensei, could be metaphorical or a individual or a person, but you also become a sensei to the others. Right? So these are little elements which I also picked up from the Toyota way.
Okay.
And that's why Toyota is what Toyota is.
Mm.
Right? The highest profit per car sold in the world.
Yeah.
Right. So these 3 books, yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing those pearls of wisdom. And after seeing this podcast, watching this podcast, I think many founders, many companies will be running after your life. So how they can actually approach you? So is there a way that they can approach or write a message to you, and how approachable you are if they really want to get your guidance and help with your with your vast experience, and you can add a lot of value to them?
I love to say I love founders,
Hmm.
right? And as we speak, I'm setting up something with two very seasoned folks who
Mhm.
I have, who are serial entrepreneurs.
Okay.
So I'm setting up something for founders in India to go global,
Oh.
right? Meaningfully,
Oh.
right? Just not clocking revenues, but meaningfully go
Meaningfully.
globally, right? There's a difference, there's a nuance. I'm happy to talk one-on-one about it. So I'm anyway setting that up. And I love founders. Some will go live very soon, right? So you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, right? And I generally respond very quickly, generally within the same day or 48 hours max.
Sure.
Uh, that's a great way to get started, and we can exchange numbers and then set up a Zoom call or meet in person.
Absolutely.
Right.
Great.
Yeah.
So great. Thank you, Rajiv, for your valuable insights, for sharing your strategic mindset, importance of this, and also various areas which people should improvise themselves and build a better innovation and involving people or partnerships or collaborations. The importance of being a team player and learning from mistakes. I think there were many key lessons from this talk, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you so much for being on my show, and thank you once again for your time.
Dr. Sonali, my pleasure. Right. Thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed discussing and sharing my ideas with you. Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and we'll keep on talking.
Absolutely. Thank you.